found my wife laughing with her lover inside our house as she handed him my keys and told me to check my email for divorce papers. What happened next made them regret ever thinking they could take everything from me. I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped onto our front porch after my business trip. The air felt different somehow, heavier, charged with something I couldn't quite name. Our welcome mat was missing. The porch light flickered erratically, like a dying heartbeat counting down the final seconds of my marriage. I stood there, briefcase in hand, jet-lagged and confused as I tried to fit my key into the lock. It jammed. The metal scraped uselessly against something inside. The key that had worked flawlessly for 8 years suddenly refused to turn. Before I could try again, the window beside the door creaked open. My wife stood there, her hair tucked neatly behind her ear, wearing that navy blouse I'd bought her for her birthday last year. There was something different about her face, a coldness I'd never seen before, the ghost of a smile playing on her lips. "Check your email," she said, her voice light, almost amused. "I just sent you the divorce papers. The house is mine now." Then, with a slight tilt of her head, she added, "And all of our savings too." I stood there frozen, my mind struggling to process what was happening. Behind her, a man's voice, deep, unfamiliar, territorial, called out something I couldn't quite catch. A figure moved through the hallway behind her, shirtless and comfortable, like he belonged there. In my house, with my wife. The silence between us thickened, became almost solid. I could hear blood rushing in my ears, drowning out the chirping birds and distant traffic that had always been the soundtrack to coming home. This wasn't home anymore. I was staring at a stranger through the window of what used to be my life. My wife's mother appeared on the driveway, arms folded across her chest, a half-smirk twitching at the corner of her mouth. I'd never liked her. The feeling was mutual. She looked at me and shrugged, as if I were nothing more than a stubborn piece of luggage that had finally been set down in the right place. "They needed space," she said, her voice stripped of any pretense of kindness. I didn't argue, didn't raise my voice, didn't demand explanations or beg for answers. Instead, I slipped the keys from my hand into my wife's waiting palm. One by one, they clinked together like the final nails in a coffin. House key, garage, shed, the little key to her jewelry box I'd always carried. I handed over the fragments of the life we'd built together and then turned and walked away. At the airport, I bought a one-way ticket. I didn't care where. Distance was my only concern, miles between me and the crater where my life used to be. That night, in the shell of a cheap motel room 2 states away, I opened my laptop. The email was there, as promised. Legal language, division of assets, polite signatures, everything gone. All of it. 14 years devoured in a week. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred, until the rage that had been clawing at my chest finally stopped and coiled itself deep inside me like a waiting serpent. Then I opened a blank document and began to write. Not a letter, not a threat, a plan. Before this, before our house became a tomb for everything I believed in, we were ordinary. At least, I thought we were. Friday night dinners at that Italian place she loved. Morning coffee served in those ridiculous mugs her sister had given us. Vacations we meticulously saved for all year. She used to squeeze my hand twice in the mornings, her silent, secret way of saying, "I love you." I lived for that second squeeze. Now I realized love isn't betrayed in loud explosions. It's assassinated quietly, in emails, in changed locks, in the casual cruelty of a wife who doesn't even bother to hide her lover when her husband comes home. I began my investigation by becoming invisible. The first move was digital. I accessed our shared cloud accounts, remnants from when we trusted each other. Photos of her and the man, time-stamped, geotagged, beach trips, restaurant dates. All while I sat in meetings across the country trying to secure our financial future, they played house with my life. I traced her bank transactions, found hidden payments, gifts, hotel rooms, new furniture purchased weeks before she locked me out. I learned his name, Marcus Hale, real estate agent, divorced twice, bad credit, no steady job, perfect. Patience became my currency. Every night, I peeled back another layer. Their lives became a map to me. Their weaknesses, their ambitions, their vanity. And then I built their end. First, the money. She had transferred everything to a joint account with Marcus. Foolish. New love makes people stupid. I impersonated Marcus. Voice cloning, social engineering, small believable emails to the bank, requests for urgent wire transfers to offshore accounts. Piece by piece, I siphoned the money back, but not into my name. Into an account in Marcus's name, riddled with suspicious flags, enough to trigger every financial watchdog in the system. Next, reputation. Marcus prided himself on his honesty in business. I seeded anonymous reviews, planted fake complaints, orchestrated a small but relentless storm of accusations. Licensing boards took notice. His name began to rot in public forums. Then the law. I tipped the IRS anonymously. Screenshots of their hidden income, discrepancies between reported earnings and lavish spending. I provided just enough breadcrumbs to ignite a full audit. I watched from the motel room as the fire started to catch. Finally, the confrontation. I returned under the cover of night, not to the house. That was ashes to me now, but to a public notary office where my wife had an appointment the next morning, finalizing documents for some new joint purchase with Marcus. I waited. When she arrived, she looked radiant. Free. Triumphant. Marcus at her side, sunglasses hiding his eyes, smugness unable to hide his smile. I walked in behind them, a file tucked under my arm. Court orders. Subpoenas. Copies of accounts. Screenshots of wire transfers. I didn't speak. I simply slid the folder across the desk. I watched the color drain from her face first, then the tremor in her hand. Marcus leaned over, confused, trying to piece together the disaster blooming before him. The notary, sensing the rot in the air, excused herself. You should check your email, I said, my voice calm, almost gentle. The lawsuits are already filed. Good luck proving you didn't know. Marcus turned red, then white. He sputtered threats, but they bounced off me like pebbles against a monolith. My wife, ex-wife, simply crumbled. No anger, just disbelief. The beautiful thing about betrayal is this: it blinds people, makes them think they've already won. In the weeks that followed, their world collapsed. Frozen assets, legal fees, investigations. Marcus's business license was suspended. They were forced to sell the house, my house, to pay their debts. I didn't buy it back. I didn't need to. I'd moved on, clean and silent. One evening, in another city far away, I sipped coffee at a small cafe. I read the news on my phone. Marcus Hale, bank fraud allegations. Cassandra Hale, bankruptcy filings. I smiled once, a small thing, a quiet thing, and then set the phone down and watched the sunset, the weight finally sliding from my chest. They had burned everything they touched. I simply gave them the match. But let me go back to the beginning to explain how we got here. Cassandra and I met in graduate school. She was studying art history. I was pursuing my MBA. We were an unlikely match. She was vibrant, social, always surrounded by friends, while I was more reserved, focused on building a career. Maybe that was the attraction, opposites and all that. We married on a perfect June day, her father reluctantly walking her down the aisle, her mother watching with thinly veiled disappointment. They'd always hoped she would marry someone from their social circle, not a middle-class guy with ambition, but no pedigree. I spent the next decade trying to prove them wrong. I worked hard, too hard perhaps. Long hours at the office, business trips that stretched from days into weeks. I was building something for us, financial security, a future where Cassandra could pursue her passions without worry. At least, that's what I told myself. Looking back, I can see the fractures forming. Cassandra's complaints about loneliness, the way her eyes stopped lighting up when I came home from trips, the subtle shift in her affection, mechanical hugs, perfunctory kisses. I noticed but didn't really see. I was too busy planning our future to realize we were losing our present. Enter Marcus. He showed up at one of Cassandra's gallery events. Handsome, charming, full of compliments about her exquisite taste and brilliant eye for emerging talent. I was in Chicago closing a deal. When I returned, Cassandra mentioned hiring a real estate agent to look into investment properties. Nothing unusual there. We'd been talking about diversifying our portfolio. What she didn't mention was that the meetings with this agent often happened over dinner, or that they extended to weekend viewings at beachfront properties hours away, or that while I was flying cross-country to secure our retirement, she was retiring to hotel rooms with him. I've asked myself countless times, would I have noticed if I'd been more present? Would it have mattered? Some betrayals aren't reactions. They're choices made in cold blood. The plan to lock me out had been in motion for months. Cassandra had been methodically separating our assets, consulting with divorce attorneys, finding ways to claim the house she'd never liked but now desperately wanted. Her mother had advised her. I found the emails later. "Wait until he's gone for at least 5 days," she wrote. "Change the locks on Tuesday when the neighbors are at work. If he makes a scene, call the police." They had accounted for everything except one crucial detail. When you betray someone completely, you free them from the obligation of loyalty. You create an adversary with nothing left to lose. After I left them at the notary's office, I checked into a hotel under a new name and watched the dominoes fall. Their text messages to each other became increasingly frantic as the IRS investigation intensified. Marcus's real estate license was suspended pending investigation for fraudulent practices. Anonymous tips about undisclosed property issues can do that. The bank froze their assets after discovering suspicious patterns of activity. Cassandra tried to reach me through friends, then attorneys, finally through tearful messages left on an email account I rarely checked. "Please," she begged in the last one. "You've made your point. We can talk about this. Split things fairly." Too late. There's no fair after someone decides to take everything. The most satisfying moment came 3 months later. I was settling into my new life in a coastal town 3,000 miles away. My phone rang, a number I didn't recognize. "Hello." I answered. "It's me," Cassandra said, her voice small. Gone was the confident woman who had smiled as she locked me out of my own house. "They're taking everything. The house, the cars, even my jewelry. Marcus is facing criminal charges. My mother had to remortgage her house for my legal fees." I didn't know this would happen. "Didn't you?" I asked quietly. "I just wanted a new start," she whispered. "I never meant to hurt you." I laughed then, not cruelly, just the honest laugh of someone finally hearing a joke they've waited too long for. "You didn't hurt me, Cassandra. You freed me." Then I hung up and blocked the number. That night, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment overlooking the ocean. The air smelled of salt and possibilities. For the first time in months, I felt something like peace settling over me. Not happiness, that would come later, but the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had walked through fire and emerged not just intact, but stronger. Some people might call what I did revenge. I prefer to think of it as restoration, not of what was taken, but of balance. They tried to erase me, to reduce 14 years to an email and a changed lock. Instead, they learned that some debts can't be avoided, and some reckonings can't be escaped. I never told anyone the full story until now. There was no need. Justice doesn't require an audience to be complete. Sometimes at night, I still wake up reaching for someone who isn't there. Old habits die hard, but those moments pass more quickly now. I'm dating again, cautiously, honestly. I've learned to look for different qualities now. Integrity over passion, consistency over intensity. As for Cassandra and Marcus, I heard they separated shortly after the bankruptcy. Her mother sold her beach house to cover legal fees. Marcus moved back to his hometown, his reputation in tatters. Cassandra took a job at a small gallery 3 states away from where we lived. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, if my response exceeded their crime. Then I remember standing on that porch, key useless in my hand, watching strangers laugh in the house I had spent years turning into a home. I remember the casual cruelty of that moment. Not just the betrayal, but the performance of it. The audience. The theater of my humiliation. No, I didn't go too far. I simply showed them that actions have consequences, and some debts must be paid in full. I've never reached out to Cassandra again, and she's never tried to contact me after that last call. Some endings should remain final. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. Life continues. I'm building something new now, a consulting business that allows me to work remotely, a small circle of genuine friends, a life defined by my choices rather than my losses. I've even started dating someone, Sarah, a marine biologist who loves early mornings and late-night conversations. It's too soon to know where it might lead, but for the first time in years, I'm not planning 5 steps ahead. I'm just living each day as it comes. People often talk about closure as if it's something given to you by the person who hurt you. An apology, an explanation, a chance to say all the things you couldn't say before. But real closure doesn't work that way. It's not given, it's claimed. It's the moment you decide that your story will not be defined by what was done to you, but by what you did next. I claimed my closure the day I walked away from that notary's office, leaving Cassandra and Marcus to face the consequences of their choices. I didn't need to watch the aftermath. I didn't need their regret or their suffering. I just needed to know that the world was balanced again. That betrayal carried a cost they couldn't escape. Am I happy now? Not always. Some wounds leave scars that never fully fade. But I'm at peace with what happened and with the man I've become because of it. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't making others suffer. It's refusing to let their actions determine your worth or your future. So that's my story. Not a happy one, perhaps, but an honest one. A reminder that even when you think you've lost everything, you still have the power to reclaim your dignity and your life. The key is knowing when to let go of what was taken and start building something new, something that no one can take from you again.